team that you said would be an absolute failed offseason if Matthew Stafford was traded and not to them?
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. Well, their general manager, Omar Khan, yesterday spoke with the media at the Combine and had this to say about the options at quarterback with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, et cetera.
Yeah, I'd say, ideally we'd like to keep one of the guys that we had with us last year, but until we don't have anyone under contract, so until that happens, all options are on the table. And, I mean, there were good things from both of them. Glad to have had both of them with us. It was a good experience and great. Both of them really great people. But the reality is we ended the season with 5 straight losses, and that's not good enough. That's unacceptable. And from top to bottom organizationally, we have to be better.
Okay, so if you're going to keep one of Wilson or Fields, Wilson's not going to be a backup. Let's be honest, right? Like, there's no point of Russell Wilson as a backup to start the season in Pittsburgh. That doesn't make sense. If you draft Shedeur Sanders and it's Russell Wilson to start the season and he becomes a backup, okay, fine, whatever. So if you're keeping Russell Wilson, you're kind of ruling out Matthew Stafford a little bit. If you're keeping Justin Fields and you bring in Matthew Stafford, why is Justin Fields signing up for that when there potentially could be other jobs that he could compete for? I don't know. Maybe I'm hearing this incorrectly. When we're talking about the Stafford market, I don't see that Pittsburgh is doing what you're saying to do, CC. And I agree with what you're saying and not what they're saying.
Let me tell you something, Ev. If Russell Wilson is on the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025, it is a fail by Omar Khan. And here's what I mean by that. Russell Wilson, as concerned, forfeited the right to be the starting quarterback, to be QB1, unencumbered going into next season when the team lost 5 straight games at the end of last year, including an embarrassment in the postseason against the division rival Baltimore Ravens. He showed you that he's not good enough to get this team to where they want to go. And I struggle to understand the logic behind deciding to ride with a late 30s quarterback that has shown you that he's not going to give you any high-level winning when the organization prides itself on competing for championships. So here's what the Pittsburgh Steelers plan should be. Go after Matt Stafford, the big fish, and then if you can't land him, look to upgrade with a more physically talented young signal caller. Because at least then, even if I don't have success in the playoffs in 2025, the quarterback that I'm investing in, the young guy that's getting all of the snaps, at least has a chance to represent an upgrade in terms of what our future could be at the position, and that leading to us having success in the postseason down the road. If you're riding with Justin Fields and he gets all of those games under his belt this upcoming season, even if you don't win a playoff game, at least you have some semblance of hope that your team can get better and compete and win playoff games, because the quarterback in Justin Fields is going to get better by virtue of continuing to play more consistently in a more structured environment. It doesn't make sense to stay with Russell Wilson. So to me, it's swing for the fences with Matt Stafford. If you can't land the plane, go with the next best option, which is Justin Fields, and he has another year in a structured environment in Pittsburgh in Arthur Smith's system.
That seems like the ideal situation for the Steelers, the way that they should approach this. And I don't know why you, Evan, think that that's not a route that they're going to take. Because when I was listening to Omar Khan talk, he talked about how they had a good experience with both of those guys. He was respectful and appreciative of what they were able to give to the organization, while also acknowledging that the results in the end are unacceptable for that organization and saying all options are on the table. I interpret this as the Steelers acting like the Steelers and not saying anything inflammatory and not showing you their cards. Now, we could see this play out where they end up not going after Matt Stafford and not going after the big fish and somehow being in a similar position, and then that's a different discussion. But I wouldn't expect a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers to go out there and say anything bad about Fields or Wilson or do anything that's going to be very disruptive. They kind of move in silence. They kind of move in a different way. So I would be very surprised if they weren't on the phone with LA and they weren't trying to figure out a way at least to see what they could do to get Matt Stafford, because he is an obvious upgrade at the position. And per their own words, the results are not acceptable.
I hope you're right, because the Steelers are a first-class organization that it's better for the sport when they're great, and they've been obviously very good for a long period of time, but not great in a long time. But I would have thought by now, considering I don't care what anyone says, Matthew Stafford's available. Matthew Stafford is available for trade. He can be overwhelmed with a contract. The Rams can be overwhelmed with an offer. That is blatantly obvious. That is a potential future Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning quarterback in the last, let's call it year or two, maybe three, probably year or two of his prime or of his career, however you want to look at it, available. I would have thought by now Adam Schefter would have had the information, and if he doesn't have it, it means it's not true, like it doesn't exist, because Schefter is one of one, that states the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do everything it takes to get Matthew Stafford. That it's going to be, they are going to manipulate every possible trade to make sure that they get Matthew. They're going to go Lakers Bronny in the draft, right? Like, hey, he's going to go to Australia if he's not on the Steelers, right? I'm dead serious, because when CeCe laid out it's a failure if he gets traded and it's not to you, I agree. This is not a Luka with the Lakers, just to make the current comparison of last night, but this is, oh my God, we may have a get out of jail free card. We have no way of finding a quarterback that can win us the Super Bowl, and the Rams and Stafford, for whatever ridiculous reason, can't come to terms. He may fall in our laps, and all we got to give up is money and a couple of picks, and we don't have to give up TJ Watt, and we don't have to give up Mike Tomlin to get him. Like, we can just get him, go get him, and we haven't heard that. We haven't heard that. And you're right. I understand the Steelers move in silence. I get that. But I want to hear that if I'm a Steelers fan today.
But they don't care about what the fans want to hear.
Yeah,
they want to make sure they execute correctly.
Well, do you guys believe they're going to execute this correctly?
Oh, I absolutely think they're in on Stafford. There is no question about it. And to Smalls' point, you don't want to tip your hand at this stage in the offseason. Why should everybody know your plan? Because the Cleveland Browns have let it be known that they're interested in Stafford? Since when is doing business like the Browns the right way to go? Said no one ever. So, yeah, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to move heaven and earth to get Matthew Stafford because it feels like he's there to be had. But I don't need to let anybody know about it until it's actually done, because I don't want to close the doors to other alternatives if, for whatever reason, that falls through. I don't want to alienate Justin Fields potentially being my guy. I don't want to pigeonhole myself into Matt Stafford and potentially silo off any other opportunities if, in fact, the Stafford trade doesn't materialize. So I understand why they're being quiet, while they're holding all their cards to the vest. It makes sense. This is the time of the year where everybody is lying in the NFL, so it's hard to nail anything down. But one thing is clear. Russell Wilson should not be on the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. He shouldn't be. Because if you can go with Russell Wilson, then that means you can go with Justin Fields. Because I don't think either route leads to you winning a playoff game next season. But at least Fields gives you the upside. He gives you the hope